All right. Welcome to the Anime Village podcast. I am joined by two very special guests. They are the co-founders of Anime Village. Today's guests are Gary Phillips, he's the CEO, and Bryan Soroka. He is the CLO, that's Chief Lore Officer. How are you guys doing today?
Great. How are you?
Doing well. Gary, how are you?
Doing great. Thanks.
That's awesome. Awesome. Well, guys, it's very exciting to, start this podcast. This is episode 1. And this is some great things that we have going on, but you guys have such a great idea of something that you've created. It's called Anime Village. Tell us the idea behind Anime Village and how it interlocks with the metaverse.
Sure. So what we've done is really going back to the beginning, starting off as fans, Gary and myself, huge fans of anime and manga. Always reading books, watching shows. I can cite so many different series, so many different manga books that I just love growing up as a kid. And really the idea was spawned when the metaverse first came into play and it started gaining popularity. And then we started learning of some of the possibilities with Web3 technology. And we thought, wouldn't it be cool to create a new experience for fans and help them explore what they're really passionate about in all new ways, right? Being fans again ourselves, it was easy to kind of construct that idea or that initial thinking, because like when we develop something or we think of an idea and then we start smiling, that's something that we know will resonate with other people, right? Because again, we're geeks ourselves, so we just love this stuff.
And we both have kids, so my fandom started back in the 70s and 80s. And one thing that we always agreed upon is that's different than a lot of the comic books and things of that nature is the storytelling. Storytelling in animes and mangas are great. They pull you in, they get you engaged. That's really what pushed us down this path of creating the metaverse and really taken to a storytelling type of mode, because I think that's what differentiates the industry. So if you create something that brings people in and then engages them through the process of interacting and socializing and playing and things like that, you really get them immersed into that story. So for us, having kids and experience ourselves, we have a great sounding board to take it to. So as Bryan was saying, when we get a smile on our face, we take that to our kids, and if we know they're smiling on our face, then we know it's not just two old dudes.
Yeah. For final approval.
Exactly.
I love it, and that's awesome. And for Anime Village, I mean, for it to go into the metaverse, but I want to know who approached who about this idea of Anime Village. Was it Bryan? Did you approach Gary, Gary, did you approach Bryan, or did you guys just like sit together and be like, we should do this or hop on this?
Yeah, we actually met through another project that we were working on. And then we really like the idea of pushing the storytelling to another level, which is something that we both agreed on, simply because, the one thing is, Gary and I have a lot in common, being, fans of the industry and fans of storytelling, but his professional background and mine couldn't be much different, right? I'm more on the creative side. He's more on the business building side, the finance side, right? So that's great because we fill in the gaps that each other has. But meeting on that other project and then taking this one to the next step, it was really a belief in, again, the metaverse and Web3 technology, the blockchain as a whole, but also creating a hybrid model that allows everybody to partake, right? So you don't need a wallet, you don't need to be into crypto, you don't need, NFTs and all these things to engage with us. You can, just be a fan, and if you want to buy a service or a product, you can go traditional route via credit card or whatever the case may be. The only criteria that we insist that you have is that you love this stuff as much as we do.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a big difference when you get in the gaming industry. I've played games for years. I mean, from early on days, which I won't go back as far, but to the most recent, the newest Call of Duty, right? So I'm not playing that. One of the things that I look at, and Bryan hit on that, is that in this hybrid model, if you took a game like Call of Duty, you brought it into here, into the Web3, and you start charging people all this money to buy these different weapons and all these experiences, then the game becomes too expensive to participate. Right. So for us, we look at this as we don't need 1,000 people that only do blockchain. We want millions of people that are fans of anime and manga and gaming to get involved, because if you make it so everybody can participate, they have a place to go. If you create it so only some people can participate because of the cost of getting into the game and constant cost of the game, you're going to lose gamers, you're going to lose people who are fans because it's just cost prohibitive. So for us, we looked at that from that perspective. How do we create something that does not alienate people, one, in technology they don't want to get into, and two, in the cost of getting into it? So Anime Village really brought about that, where we can actually create something that brings this activity, the storytelling, the games, all these things to fans without costing them a fortune that they already are used to paying. So in-app purchases, things like that are common. You know, if you're buying, you're getting drop boxes, things like that, or anything inside of games, you're used to paying $50, right? You're used to pay $25 or $10 or $1 for an in-app purchase. If you start saying it's 1 ETH, well, 1 ETH is $1,200. Well, right. Who wants to pay $1,200 to get an axe or get a sword or get this? That's ridiculous in cost, and it just pushes that person to the barrier that I'm not playing this game. I'm not going to go in this activity. So what we've looked at and we continue to do is how do we make this so everybody can be active in this, whether you have a credit card or you have a wallet or a different way of paying, you can go in and find that solution and participate without having to go out there and have a full-blown blockchain, that's the whole purpose behind where we see ourselves going.
That's really cool, and that's a great idea, and I love the idea of trying to make it like not having people spend a ton of money to, you know, play a game, spend $1,200, and you get like an axe or a special sword, and you make it involvement for everyone. And the other cool thing that you guys do to make it involvement is you have 4 different genres that you're involving into this metaverse of anime and mangas of what you guys will be able to do. Can you explain about those 4 different genres that you're bringing into the metaverse of Anime Village?
Sure. So this really again taps into our fandom, our personal fandom, where we like so many different types of shows and so many different types of books. I'm a big fan of historical fiction. I also like action. I also like superhero. I also love sports. We know that people read all manner of books. So when it came time for us to think about, okay, we're going to start developing some characters that we're going to feature in original manga, we're going to feature as avatars, we're also going to feature in our metaverse via storylines that we introduce in these mangas. So what kind of stories do we want to tell? So we identified 4, what we feel are 4 primary genres, which are action, adventure, supernatural, and slice of life. We're going to be developing a manga for each of these genres, the first of which you can see proudly adorned behind you, Jeff, which is Adamanto. That's our action title, the first chapter of which is going to be complete at the end of this month. The metaverse play on Adamanto is going to be our action village, which is called Fury Falls. And in Fury Falls, we're going to be propagating it with a bunch of storylines that are introduced in the manga. And then we're going to keep rolling that out. So next up would be the Supernatural Village, which is entitled Mystic Valley. The manga that is tied to that one is called Undead Reckoning, which I'm currently working on some of the details and the scripting of that as well. And then we move forward with Slice of Life. The manga is going to be Tunin Kigo. The Metaverse Island is called Harmony Hills. And then last but certainly not least, we have Adventure, which is supported with the manga title Cro-Magnum, and the Metaverse Village is called Legends Gate.
Awesome.
And one important thing to add to that is that we also have Village 555, which is the center point, entry point of everything you go to.
The hub.
It is a non-genre base. It's basically you're in an anime. It's where all characters can come together, commingle, and things like that. If you're interested in going to an adventure, action, slice of life, you have all those available too. So somebody who's maybe not a fan of certain genres can just reside and do all their things in just Village 555. And that's one thing we came up with, is creating something that allows, I'm not a big anime fan. Well, I love Village 555 because everything I want to do, socialize, and activities and concerts are all right there. I don't have to be that. We're concerned and so forth. But when you look at the genre villages, we're looking at districts. So you've got a district that might be an Edo period for Shinichi, which is Adamanto, but across the water, you might have cyberpunk, or something like a gunman type of thing, right? So you're going to have all kinds of different things mixed together to bring that whole village together. So it's not just one small district always going to be this. That's why I think it's so interesting about it, is that you can be a fan and you can be a fan of all these different areas, but you can easily transport to the other one and experience that at any time. So it takes that newness and that activity beyond just, I'm just going to be always a mech warrior. No, I can go over here and go to the samurai village and the ninja village, right? Or I can go over here and be in the whatever, my Jigglypuff village, something like that. I can experience all these things. And that's what's really cool about what we have, is you're not subject to just say, you only can reside in this one. So the idea is that we really created these 5 villages and these 5 islands are 5 metaverses within ours that you can go to and find these activities and all these different things going on. So engagement gets taken that next level. Socializing takes the next level, because now you can socialize your friends who are always going to be over here or are going to be over there. It's easy to make that connection now.
Yeah. And those 4 main genres are going to be populated with subgenres. So Gary touched upon that with, for instance, if we're talking action, we're going to have cyberpunk. We're going to have romance. We're going to have musicals. We're going to have mecha. We're going to have horror. So there's really not going to be an opportunity for anybody to get bored.
Oh my God, that's awesome. So you have like an involvement of everyone, like for everyone, that like this has different genres and the subcategories and even just the hub. It's nuts.
And the trick is to not to become a generalist. So when we say with all these subgenres and all these genres, it's not like, we're going to create this generic kind of section within Fury Falls where it's like a cyberpunky kind of thing. No, it's actually going to have that vibe. It's going to have the architecture, a great amount of time, and we've gone through a great amount of pain to make sure that the details are spot on. Because again, it's just we love doing this stuff, so it's really not a chore, right? It's just a blast doing this stuff.
And the fan base is, come on, the fan base, if they want cyberpunk, they're going to want cyberpunk, and they're going to have their opinion of what cyberpunk needs to be. And by selling land in all these different metaverses, people can buy an area or do a whole district, and they can, with our help and outside creators' help, they can create this whole vision of what they envision that to be, that people can come through and have activities in and businesses in and things like that too. So it really takes that whole identity piece of what you anticipate or what you interpret can be built inside of that.
It's amazing because like it gets everyone involved. Like I feel like, just thinking in my head, like if I'm watching a Gundam like anime one day and I'm like, I really want to get into mecha, I can go into the mecha subcategory, and then one day I'm watching Samurai Champloo and I'm like, I really want to be like in the samurai world today. Like it's just really cool. It's amazing too, in the fact that you guys are able to do all this, but you're also getting involvement from a lot of people that from different genres that, they might experience something that they wouldn't want to experience before, or go out there and try something different, besides like go out for a slice of life. You might not be a slice of life person, but you might want to try it and check it out. And then that might lead to like other openings and stuff like that.
And exactly. I'll be able to talk about that for a second, because I'm a big action fan, right? So Chainsaw Man, all these different things like that. I love Naruto. We're a big Naruto family. We have all the mangas here. We've watched all the movies and stuff like that throughout the family. But on my daughter's side, it's slice of life. So I've been watching Spy Family. I've been watching all these different things with them, or on High School, you name it. I've all these slice of life things that I would have never watched in my entire life, because it's not something I would go to. But with them, I'm watching them, and they're, I'm actually enjoying them. Again, it's good storytelling. Good storytelling, no matter what the story is about. If it's done very well, everything flows nicely. You get engaged no matter what. It always goes back to the same thing I always say. You can have these great movies, great writers, great and bad actors, and the movie stinks. You can have great actors, wonderful and terrible writers, and the movie stinks. But if you bring those two together and you find that fulcrum, which brings both together, you get really good storytelling. And that's one thing I've seen a lot in Blue Lock with sports, with a lot of the sports ones now. They have good storytelling, and the action's really good. Even though the action is kicking a soccer ball or football, it's still the stories, the writing, the engagement, it's all there. And it's I think that's what when we see that, that's what we say, slice of life is going to be one of the big ones for us. We see Supernatural being a big one for us. You know, and we see all these different things coming together because we know that there's a fan base, really a fandom out there that loves these particular areas, and they're just salivating for an opportunity to create something or get engaged and be in something like this. So it's a very exciting time for us as we move forward. We keep talking about the smile on our face. We like giggle like schoolgirls, you know. Sometimes like, this is so much fun.
Yeah.
How can you get paid to do this?
It's really cool. And it's also, I mean, what we strive for is to be authentic. And that stems really from an understanding of, well, what makes manga different from comic books? What makes anime different from Western animation? And really, in my experience and from other people that I've talked to, it's that manga and anime tend to focus more on characterization. That's why you'll have a complete issue or a complete episode that is a fight scene or is a dialogue between a couple of characters. You would never in a million years see that in a Western styled book or a Western styled show. But that's why people have developed such strong emotional ties to manga and anime characters, is because of the strong characterization. So when you combine that with really, really cool plot lines, action sequences, and that characterization, that's why I think, manga has caught on like wildfire, especially over the past, let's say, 2 or 3 years.
Right.
Yeah. It's nuts. And it's funny that you bring that up, Bryan, because when you think about it, like in the animes or the mangas, like for Naruto, which Gary had mentioned, was Itachi. Like everyone got attached to Itachi, and he only showed up to like 33 episodes, but his character development, and you get attached to that character and everything that he did. It's nuts.
And that's the thing. I mean, you can see it, like Netflix is a good example where they release 40 titles a year, which they call anime, which a lot of it is not. A lot of it is, I call it a Western show in anime clothing, right? Because they don't subscribe to the notion of characterization. They subscribe to the Western style of storytelling, which is plot driven. So every scene or every panel is intended to move the story forward in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
And again, that's not the operative for anime or manga. It's to get people familiar with the character, to care about the character, whether good or bad, and emotionally invest in them. That's what we've done, and that's what we're going to continue to do.
Love it. I love it. And then you have created your own original mangas, which we had talked about, and Adamanto being one of them, as you can see in the background. I mean, what's it like for you to write those mangas as well, to make them come to life as well in Anime Village?
Again, it's wild. Like, I come down to work and, smile on my face, and then I have my head down at, I usually start the day early at about 8 o'clock, and then I look up and it's 5 o'clock already, and it's like, where did the day go? Just thinking of these cool, characters. And I mentioned before that I'm a big historical fiction fan. So what we've done with Adamanto is populate it with actual figures and characters that exist either in Japanese lore or nonfiction Japanese history. And then we combine them with our characters to create these kind of really cool episodic moments where, we have them interacting with one another and really kind of retconning some of actual historical events, but obviously with a much more kind of fantastical flair to it, right?
Yeah, definitely. And that's really cool that you bring historical characters into it as well. And Gary, like when Bryan approached you with these manga ideas and the approach of this, what were your thoughts when you first saw Adamanto?
We were really talking about it. We were looking at creating characters and stuff, and I said, one of the things that we should do is we should create our own manga series. Why don't we take these and do our own manga series? When we first looked at a lot of things, we were looking at creating the metaverse first, and then going out and then creating these characters in the metaverse, and then creating the stories inside the metaverse. And the more we thought about it, the more we started thinking it's better to create these stories on the outside and create our own and publish our own stuff. And one of the future items we want to do is we want to create a self-publishing arm, because we believe that once we get all these groups of these different types of people in here, we'll have artists and writers and all these different types of artisans that build these great stories, can all come together and collaborate inside of our metaverse. So you'll have opportunity to create some great stories that beyond that what we're creating. So for us, we wanted to create our own licensed IP, because when you're a new company, getting someone like a Naruto to say, yeah, I want to be in your metaverse, doesn't happen that fast, right? It doesn't
Yeah.
like happen, and they don't know who you are at this point in time. So what for us, we looked at it and say, let's create our own stories. And Bryan's done a great job of writing these, and we've got a great artist and Kevin that's just we're killing these the panels and stuff like this. So the stories are really coming together, and we also know that and Bryan really authenticity is really key too. So you're not going to see Bryan writing a slice of life story, because as much as he wants to do it, he's not going to.
Yes.
He knows that he needs to find writers who are just as passionate about that as he is passionate about action and adventure. So we know that going forward, we'll have other people that we'll be bringing in to really focus on those key areas, because we want to drive that authenticity throughout. We want people to read our mangas and saying, these are not only fans, they get why we love this type of product.
Yeah, that's the key word right there, passion. And I simply would not be able to do Tuning Kigo, which is the first slice of life title, justice, simply because it's not one of the genres that, you know, I really, really love. I'll be honest with you. Not everybody loves everything, right? You might not like horror, or supernatural, so Undead Reckoning won't be your thing, or you might not like adventures, so Cro-Magnon won't be it. If you're into action, then I can guarantee you're going to love Adamanto, simply because I love it. And we have a lot of similarities because, again, we love that vibe that manga gives off, right? We love that anime feeling. And you can't deny that it's, you know, baked into everything that we do.
That's awesome. I love that. And for Adamanto, like you had Kevin, like what was it like to see Kevin bring your characters to life?
Yeah, that was really, really cool. So Kevin Briones is the artist of Adamanto. I've known Kevin for quite a few years, even going back to our advertising and marketing days. And I knew that he was an artist. He worked on some of his own books, but he also was an aspiring mangaka. So he wanted to work in that realm. So when the opportunity arose, when Gary and I first started Anime Village about a year ago, he was the first call I made. And, you know, I told him the story. I sent him some of the scripts because I'd already banged out a couple of those. And he says, yes, I need to work on this. And the character designs, it was actually kind of weird, because typically what you'll do is before you even get to script, you'll start developing the look of the characters, right? You'll go like the Marvel handbook route, where you'll have a front shot and a side shot and a back shot, or you'll have a description and then you'll work with the artist and go back and forth until you have some mood boards or some character sheets. The way we kind of approach this is I created the initial artwork for Adamanto. Now, I must preface that by saying that I suck as an artist. It's one of my greatest dreams that I could be an illustrator, but I cannot. So I've settled on writing the stuff. But I'm good enough to get a likeness out there of, this is the look of the character, this is the feel of the character. And from there, Kevin just hit the ground running, and he created just incredible iterations of Shinichi, who's the chief protagonist in the book, Emperor Gaozu, who is the Tang emperor. We have the Byzantines. We have, you know, these titans and these half-breed monsters and undead soldiers, and so many more. Kevin really took what I was trying to put out there and took it to the next level with his designs. And you can check it out in the ash can in our preview section at myAnimeVillage.com. Yeah.
And what Bryan lacked in artistic ability, he made up for in organizing and pulling together historical data and information and content that enabled Kevin to look at that and say, I get where you're going. I get where you're looking. I get what you're wanting to do. So all that detail and upfront work, there was a lot involved in that. And I think that's one of the things that's really helped Kevin envision where we're going with everything. And really also, not only that, into the RPG games, the future, where we're taking our storylines. Storylines go from a manga series to into avatars, and eventually into quest and things like that inside the metaverse. And then it'll go to a role-playing game, RPG game, where you're going to actually play the actual storyline. So all the content we have, as far as the weapons of the time periods, the outfits, the armors, the characters, you know, that's all research that Bryan put into this and all pulled together. So he may not be able to draw. He can definitely draw better than me. Stick figures about as far as I can get. They're usually not square, but that detail is really what set the this everything in motion. Is, I like to call the little snowball at the top of the mountain, going down and growing and growing and growing and growing to get to where it is today. So I'm seeing the first set come up from Kevin for me was you're like, okay, this is we're going the right path. This is awesome. This is exactly, because we're all fans. And I showed my kids are all different ages from 15 to 24, and they're all like, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So having the just space from those and knowing that makes our life a lot easier.
I've seen the art and it's fantastic. Like it's so well detailed and so well drawn and put together. It might be better than in some other mangas too. Like just the pictures and everything, like everything he's been able to do, the full detail. It's crazy. So it's great that you're able to have Kevin do that and bring those characters to life. But then also,
yeah,
I
checked out. I checked out I checked out a few of the new pages, and there it was like my mouth was dropping open. It was just like, because when I'm conceiving of the script and the scenes, right? When you write a comic book script, the way I go about it is, I have page one, 6 panels, and then I'll go and I will give a description of what's happening in each panel, and then I'll write in the dialogue or the onomatopoeia or the captions or whatever the case may be. And then I push it along to Kevin, and then he goes and interprets that, right? Now, the one thing about Kevin and I, the relationship that we have as a creative team behind Adamanto is, I'm not just the writer and he's not just the artist, right? I like to think of us as just creatives, because when he's looking through the script, it's happened on many pages where it's like, okay, that's a great, but it doesn't quite work, right? Because sequential storytelling is an acquired talent, right? It's not just something I don't think anybody can do just out of the gate. You have to practice it, you have to own it. And that's what Kevin has done over the years. So if I have 5 panels in a description for page 2 and the action or the scene isn't flowing like he thinks it should, he'll add a panel, he'll take a panel out, or he'll split it, or he'll stack it in a different way. That's where he's amazing, right? And that's where he really comes in to take that creativity to the next level, and also the storytelling.
It's so good, and it's just phenomenal. And then to be able to see those characters come to life on the page, but also now you're seeing them come to life in the metaverse. Now you have these avatars that, you got Shinichi running around in Anime Village. I mean, how long did that process come about, and what's it like for you guys too to start to see the gears go into motion?
Well, the avatars are still a work in progress. So we've
Yeah.
started with Shinichi. And really the thing is, we have Shinichi appearing in different environments. So how Shinichi looks in a manga as to how Shinichi looks as an avatar to how Shinichi will eventually look in an anime is not going to be exact.
Okay.
But our challenge is, no matter what environment we have him broadcast in, we want people to say that's Shinichi. Without a shadow of a doubt, that's him. That's what he looks like. So that's what we've been doing with the avatar now, for instance, where, we had the first iteration of him, and yeah, it was okay. It's kind of like, I can see that, but it wasn't quite there. So we went through a couple of more iterations until I think now we're finally at that point where, yes, that looks like Shinichi. The same process when we are creating an art series, which are offered in NFT form with utility built into them, where Shinichi is displayed in different samurai armors. Those samurai armors are going to be one of ones in avatar form. That's the utility built into them. And that's another mandate of Anime Village, is adding value, right? We don't want people, or we can't expect people to buy something or to spend their money on something if we wouldn't, right? So if I'm looking at something, if I'm reading the manga, or if I see an artifact that I want to add to my avatar, if it doesn't resonate with me, if it's not something that I would say, yeah, you know what, that's really cool, I'd get that, I can't expect anyone else to. So that's the thinking behind that.
Yeah, one thing's gonna be really cool is that we got NPCs, so non-player characters that are part of the story. So you have all these different characters there throughout our manga series. They'll be walking around inside the environment where you can go interact and talk to and stuff. So you're going to be Shinichi, but you can go around as yourself or whatever character you want to go around as, but you'll be able to go up and you'll have guys that are 8 feet tall. You'll have these big giant creatures wandering around. So it's really bringing all of the characters. And I want to say we have like 800 maybe or more that'll eventually be percolated throughout all the different villages that you'll be able to interact with and see and check out and stuff like that. You might not be able to play those characters because some of them are going to be massive, but you can still interact with them. It's really cool.
We have some Titans. A Titan is actually introduced in the first volume. So that's the Shiji Murray, which is about 250 feet high. So probably not going to be a playable character, but you're going to have fun interacting with him and trying to take him down, because that, again, is one of the plot points introduced in volume 1 of Adamanto.
That's awesome. And I want to get into more detail. Who came up with the idea to use your own manga plots and put them into the metaverse for people to play in Anime Village? Whose idea was that?
If I'm remembering correctly, that was probably Gary. That was the idea of kind of driving the metaverse with stories. I don't know where exactly it came from, but as soon as I heard it, I ran with it. It was just such a cool idea. and really, you know, it spoke to my history as I started off my career as a copywriter in advertising and marketing. And I've always been a big fan of integrated programs, right? So you take a bunch of different mediums or a bunch of different channels, you combine them to create a campaign or a program. That's exactly what we've done with Anime Village, where we're taking all of these different things where, you know, whether it's the manga titles themselves, whether it's the avatars, whether it's the metaverse, whether it's NFTs, whatever the case may be, and we're kind of fusing them all together and creating this one giant kind of story that you can engage with in a manner that you see fit, right? Because that's another thing we realize being fans ourselves is people want to engage with these things the way they feel comfortable. Some guys are hardcore gamers. They have no problem sitting down for 8 hours and going through a quest. Others are more casual, right? Maybe they just want to read a chapter of a manga or hang out with friends and play a side game. And that's the thing that's cool about the Anime Village platform, is that you can engage with it at whatever level you want to.
Yeah, we looked at it from a standpoint of how do you take a life cycle and you make it a looping life cycle, right?
Right.
So creating a story and getting IP from characters that you own. Now, with those characters we own, the stories we own, we're not bound by licensing and stuff like that, because now they're our own IP. So we can take that, create that into our avatars, create the stories into our metaverses, and then take those and create those into our RPG games. And eventually, once we build fandom for that, create that into an anime series. So now you have this whole process of everything coming through. And that's really what we see as value, because for me, my background is business and marketing as well. So from a strategic standpoint, I see a product that I can create something, and not only create something that people can hold or visually or read and interact with. Now I'm taking the point where I can get you to see all the different pieces and follow this person all the way through, like you can with Naruto. Naruto is a good example just because it's mangas, it's got animes, it's got RPG games, it's got apps, it's got all these different things. You can go out with plushies and characters, et cetera, right? Oh my. So for us, it's the same thing. We create that process of looking for our own IP, but in our metaverse now, once we create the first process all the way through, we've got an RPG game replicated. Well, we can take that and we can replicate RPG games over and over and over and over again. So we're not having to reinvent every one we do, because we have a template created. So once our template's created, which is already created, now we can go in and really, every time we want to create a new RPG game or an extension or whatever it might be, it's easy for us to do that. It doesn't take us 2 years like in a game development. We can have something created within a matter of months, and we can have a new addition to this whole storyline. So when volume 1 comes out of Adamanto, we'll eventually get to our RPG game of going through that process of that. But what we love about it is we want the small quests to be done inside a metaverse where you have to get these certain things to do this. You have to get this, you have to get this, you have to maybe collect ore and this and gems or what have you to get the things you need to go into the game and play it. Because the way the metaverse is right now, if you're in a social metaverse and you want to play a game, you have to download that game to play it. And you leave the metaverse to go to that game. So you can have 20 games, but every time you're downloading those games and going out to those, so you're leaving one to go to the other. We want to keep you inside our metaverse as long as possible by doing the quest interactive and things of that nature where you're not downloading. But when you're ready to go full-fledged into the game, once you've gathered all the things you need, then you're going to go into the game you download at that point in time, right? So our process is thinking is how do we carry people through that without having them be disconnected? I don't like disconnected realities, I guess. So I'm doing this now. I have to jump out and go do this. I hate doing that. I hate software that it's not that doesn't interact and it doesn't give you that feeling. So it's like having 5 different software packages and none of them communicate. So I have to jump out of one to go to another one. And in the day when we're creating software and things like that, that is the biggest annoyance we ever had, and also the biggest request from big corporations. So for us, creating that same environment and thought process in the metaverse is imperative, because we can simplify where people can just stay and interact. And that's why we want the social part of it tied to it as well, where if I'm in here, I can send my videos to TikTok. I can send my videos to Instagram. I can update my profile, what's going on with people. Hey, I'm over here in my village. I'm in Fury Falls. I'm having a big battle. You guys should come and join me. And boom, it disseminates out to your buddies and stuff in Discord or since wherever you're at, and gets people to want to come and interact with you. So we look at things as that whole thing. We don't want to take social and say social is outside. Social needs to be embedded in what we're doing.
It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. It's crazy that like all the thought and the process that goes into this. I mean, how many hours and phone calls and writing ideas and everything did it take for you guys to just like come to all this together, put this all together?
We got a year into it.
There's been a couple. Yeah, I mean, really over the past year, there's been the most work done to it. But Gary alluded to this before, where I think we were really smart for once, where we actually did all of this planning. Like we took 6 months and we started planning all of this out, right? The basis of the storylines, the characters, how they're going to interact, what our metaverse is going to be with the genre villages and all that. So when it came time to actually build the stuff, instead of it taking 18 months, 2 years, it took a couple of months, right? Because we had the blueprints. All we had to do was, get the hammer, get the nails, and start building it. The same with the stories, right? Everything had been mapped out. Everything had been planned out. I had the scripting, excuse me, all done for this. So all we needed was to find a great artist like Kevin who could take that and run with it. So again, execution was not as laborious as it should have been, or like it usually is, where you start thinking of ideas and then executing at the same time. I think, we can call it, there's the Marvel method. I think we've developed the anime village method, where it's like all of this, we start planning and we don't start building until we're finally happy with what the end product is going to be.
And a lot of things we're working on, these are the things that I've done in my past, or companies I've owned or created or invested in the past, that are things that we saw that we could see as saying, you know what, we need to have these things. These are things that work very well. These are things that don't work very well. These are things that are going to be mission critical to us, because if we were outside coming into this, what would be our expectations? And you can't go in this with blinders on thinking that you know better than everybody else. You got to listen to the voice of the customer. You got to listen to the voice of the younger generation, because if you're not listening to the kids that are 15, 16, 20, and in the low 20s, you're missing your whole demographic, because that's going to be your big users over the next 15, 20 years. All right, your 30, 40-year-olds, yeah, they give a good opinion. You want to hear that. You want to get them involved and stuff like that. But to the younger generation, it's going to be the ones going to be participating on a longer term. So you've got a great opportunity to get great feedback. But I think from us, we've noticed a lot of things early on. We need to have these following items brought in. How do we do that? Do we build versus buy? Do we want to build this? No, you know what? Let's not build that, because right now we can go out and use this blockchain solution like a Polygon that enables us to circumvent some of the challenges you have going direct with Ethereum or whatever other blockchain you're looking at. So it's really looking at the different components that you need to bring in, the different processes to bring in, then saying, okay, let's just focus on this. Now let's start building this infrastructure. And I think what we've done well with our partnership and working with like Unity and our other group that we're working with, which is Plow Games, is that we've been able to really identify, we have a certain look and feel we want to accomplish. Right? How do we do that in the fastest period of time? And I think all, like Bryan alluded to, is all the upfront work we put into it enabled us to really quantum leap that. I know people who spent $2, $4, $5, $10 million and have less than we have right now.
That's crazy.
It's just that simple. And we're working on this on a shoestring budget, because one, we were very efficient at what we're doing, and two, we come from I come from the business world. I come from turnaround. I come from large companies in the publicly traded markets and things like that. So I've also been had my own companies. I've sold 3 of them. So I've got the experience of how all these things come together and what not to do. So lessons learned is something that we're not doing in this company. We're using the lessons already learned to apply here so we don't make the same mistakes, which has been really good for us.
As much as we can anyway.
Yes, as much as we can.
I love it. Yeah, and it's great. I think that's amazing. You guys took the right approach to it, because to get you get everything going. I feel like you see a lot of businesses not succeed as well, because I think a lot of people look towards the future more than taking those stepping stones to get to where they need to be first. And then, I think you guys have made the right approach to it. And you work with Plow Gaming. I mean, what's it been like to work with them and have them help develop the metaverse and everything?
It's been great. They've developed a lot of games in the past. They understand the efficiencies of going through how a process is. They're not a massive gaming company where you're paying 10 times the amount that you normally would pay. So we're in a very good relationship with them on what we're doing, how we're getting it done fast. And what I like about that is that they're just not taking something and just doing it. They're taking something and then saying, hey, we could do this. Let's do this way. Let's improve it by doing this. You know what? I think we should go this route. So we've created more of a partnership than we are in a supplier vendor relationship. It's definitely a partnership in this relationship.
Yeah.
So we're co-developing as we go through this process, which I think is where a lot of companies fall short, is they don't get a relationship or a partner, a true partner. They get just a vendor that just wants to charge them for hours, and they don't look at what they're building and how they could build it more effectively and more efficiently, or you're making errors because you're not considering this, right? So all these things, I think working with them has been really a godsend for us. I think we would have been probably where we are today. It'd be 6 months to a year later, and we finally get to where we are today in that period of time.
Yeah, and it's really, I think, a key part of the relationship is they've taken the time to get to know the stories and the characters, right? It's not just as Gary mentioned, where it's like, okay, here's what the character looks like, and they just spit out a design. It's like, okay, on to the next one.
Yeah.
It's that they're familiar, right? They don't have to be as familiar with it as Gary or I, right? But it's kind of like, harkening back to those advertising and marketing days. If I'm going to create a campaign for your product or your service, I don't have to know your brand as well as you do. What I have to do is know it enough to make sure that the communications that I build or the products that I build resonate with the people that you're trying to communicate with. And they've certainly gone above and beyond in that respect. So yeah, it's definitely a partnership, as opposed to we just went out, hired this company to execute on what we were thinking.
That's great. That's awesome that you guys are able to have that partnership and develop, be together and co-develop this and make everything come true. I have a few more questions, and then we'll wrap it up soon. But I want to know what's any new updates, anything in the forecast coming out for Anime Village that the listeners and the fans can be looking forward to.
Yeah, well, the big things on the horizon is we're currently working on a multiplayer version of Village 555. So currently we have what we're calling a pre-alpha downloadable demo, where it's just really to give people a sense of the look and the feel and what they can expect. It's literally the tip of the iceberg insofar as what's going to be included in Village 555. And then from there, the multiplayer demo is going to be something that they won't have to download. People won't have to download. They'll be able to hop on with dozens upon dozens or how many ever of their friends and fellow fans to check out the environment, to experience that. The other thing that we're excited about is we mentioned this a bit before, is the completion of Chapter 1, Volume 1, Chapter 1 for Adamanto Godslayer, which is going to be finished at the end of this month. And then also, this is a bit further down the road, but Fury Falls, which is our action village, which is tied into the Adamanto title. We have the concept art all done, and we're going to start building that as well.
Super exciting. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be very cool. We actually spent I traveled over to Japan, got a lot of inspiration and stuff, so we can build what we're going to build. We want to build to be authentic as possible. So when people see things, they think, "Oh, that's really cool. That's authentic." That time period for our actual characters and stuff. The other thing we have coming up too, we're going to be launching We'll be launching our new tokens coming up pretty soon for some of our environment that'll be out there. We have quite a few other things that are in the works. I think the Fury Falls, getting that done is going to be really cool. I think the whole thing Bryan was talking about with 555, the massive multiplayer part of it is, you'll be able to jump around. We'll have some avatar creator. We can create your avatars in here. That'll be part of it. And then we'll be adding in some of that social component where you can do instant messaging, voice chat, things of that nature. I'll be included in it as well. So those are not too far off. And one of the big things for us right now we'll be starting our pre-sale land, where you'll have an interactive map that you can go through and select the land that you want to pre-buy, and then you can go out and buy different sections of land in Fury Falls and also in Village 555. And then as that all gets started built into the blockchain, which will happen next year, you'll be able to start building into it, and you will have a whole area where you can actually go in a marketplace where you can buy different things, and you can actually design your own buildings and things like that for your environment.
Wow. So all great stuff coming up down the pipeline.
Very
and
exciting.
super exciting. Yeah. This has been great. And so now I just gotta ask some personal questions, because you guys are both big anime fans, manga fans. So we got and gaming fans as well too. So I want to know, how did you guys, you guys are work together. How did you guys start sharing your love of anime together?
How did we start? It was again from that original project, and it's just from there you just naturally geek out, right? It's as you just start talking about the shows that you like, or the movies that you like, or the books that you're reading, and then kind of tying that back into the business, right? Because I really don't think we could build a business, another anime manga inspired business, but I don't think it would resonate with people as much as it has and as much as it will if there wasn't that passion driving it, right? Like when I've always believed that when I'm watching a movie or I'm reading a comic book or a manga, I can tell whether the creators were really into it or if they were just cashing a paycheck, right? There's some ethereal kind of like vague thing that you can't quite put your finger on. It's kind of like that lightning in the bottle, right? Like when a movie really works, but people can't explain why. It's the chemistry that the actors have, or the script, or whatever the case may be. All of these different elements come together and just to create this really incredible product. So that's kind of like how we came together, and that's what makes Anime Village work so well, in my opinion.
Yeah, and we didn't really talk about how old we were at the time, but we started looking at one of my favorite ones was Star Blazers. I was a big fan of that when I was growing up. It was on one of the channels I could watch when I was young, and there wasn't a lot of anime here. You had just very selected few between that and G-Force and a few other ones, but that was a big one for me. Starblazer. I still like it today. I'm buying models of the ships that are out there. They have new versions all on DVD now, and that license is one of the licenses I'd love to have in our metaverse eventually. And then we got into new ones. We started talking about Chainsaw Man. We started talking about all these different ones that are out there. One Punch Man, you name it. We've gone through. And we just have these little geek sessions where we geek out and talk about, hey, that was really cool. You see that latest episode?
Yeah.
So it's funny because you can have a conversation with some of our younger influencers we have, and they start talking about this episode. Yeah, I watched the episode. It was pretty sweet. It doesn't really matter your age at this point in time. Again, we go back to the same thing. If you love storytelling, really good storytelling, you love how people bring it together and display it to you where you can absorb it. It just doesn't matter what age you are. You can just get into it. It's so exciting.
It's very true. And I mean, did you guys ever expect the popularity of anime to be where it is today here in the United States?
I did, because of my kids. I mean, I've been, since my kids were born all the way through, we've had connection with anime in one way, shape, or form, of anime or manga. And I've watched them go through. My two daughters, one daughter graduated in East Asian in international studies in Japanese language, and she's in Japan right now. My other daughter is in school right now taking Japanese and East Asian culture. And a lot of that has to do with their love for the storytelling of Japanese manga and anime. And that's why they've gone that direction.
Yeah, I could say that I would see that anime and manga would get so big, but I'd probably be lying. I never would have guessed. You can see the sales charts. Manga is overtaking, Marvel and DC and all these other books. anime shows are overtaking all of these Western properties. And I never would have dreamed that, right? But you know, a couple of events have come together in confluence and created this monster of an industry where you had one, again using Marvel and DC as an example, where they're putting out product that is not great. I'll be totally honest, I'm a big Marvel guy. The books that they put out now, not to my liking, not very good, and sales are indicative of that, and that a lot of people agree with that. Then you had the pandemic hit, so people had a lot of extra time to kind of explore and see other, you know, books and other shows. And you know, if you were into comics or if you're into animated series, you kind of came upon, you know, on Netflix, One Punch Man or Attack on Titan or Berserker or any of these titles. So I think those things combined kind of created this monster, and it's just kept snowballing and snowballing to the point where we've come from a niche and entered the mainstream, which is really cool because there's so much more content available out there. But it's like anything else, you know, you got to take the good with the bad, where there's some content out there that people are just trying to capitalize on, where it's just not, it doesn't embody that spirit or doesn't have that passion for it. But, you know, overall, it's amazing. Like, it's the best time ever for fans to be into this stuff because there's so much cool stuff out there. It's just, you can't even count.
Yeah, it's crazy how much it's grown. I mean, I've liked it since I think middle school. I started watching like Dragon Ball Z, and I think I mentioned to you guys, a big Gundam guy, too, big fan of Gundam. That's what really got me into it. But it's funny now, like even when you go on like Funimation or Crunchyroll on those websites, they have simuldubbed. So the episodes are literally like your sub episodes are coming out, and then your English versions, dub versions of the episodes come out like the next week or the next day. And it's something I never experienced. I remember waiting for, you know, movies like Broly movie for Dragon Ball Z to come out forever when I was like, I was like, come on, when is this going to come out? I heard all about this, you know, watching, you know, obviously.
Yeah, I enjoy watching them in native language. So I love watching Japanese subtitles. And I know that a lot of people, I saw a bunch of them that are doing a lot for India. They're doing a lot for different countries. Portuguese has a lot of them. It starts coming up.
A lot of Spanish too. Yeah.
Still love watching them in Japanese. I'll watch all the Naruto ones. I watch all the new ones. But if it's in Japanese, I want to watch it in that.
Well, I always watch the original Japanese first, and then when I rewatch, maybe I'll go to English if it's available, because that allows me to focus more on the artwork or more on the actual scene, right? Because sometimes, especially with the faster paced series, like maybe Berserker, where I'm reading captions, right? I'm reading subtitles, I miss stuff. So then I'll go back and I'll watch it in English, and then it's like, okay, cool. Now I can kind of soak in the glory that is, you know.
The hard part I have, Brian, is when you have a voice actor that you hear in one series and you've watched that series, and then you hear the voice actor in the other series, it's the exact same voice. And then it's like, you know, 4 or 5 times you see this person in 4 or 5 different animes doing the same voice. And it's like, it's hard to get past that part. That's why I like the native.
Oh, that's the same character from so and so.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love it. And then, Gary, I think you touched upon this, and one of my last questions here is, you mentioned that you got into anime with Star Blazers. Is that right? Was there anything else that had also caught your eye as growing up as well too? Any other animes?
You had back with G-Force is one of the big ones back there. They had with
that was mine.
That was a good one. There was quite a few of them. You know, Dragon Ball, all of those. Pokemon, of course, you can't avoid that one. That one's my kids still play Pokemon Go even today. I know the internet purchases very well.
and then Brian,
all the other ones too. I mean, there's been quite a few of them over the years that a lot of times people in the US didn't know these were Japanese anime, right? They were all just voice dubbed because they're anime. You can't. It's not like a bad kung fu movie. When you do the English dub, it doesn't really match. Here, anime, you can do the voice dubs, and it's easy to do that, right? So in those animations and stuff. So a lot of times you didn't know you were watching Japanese anime in the United States, and when you were younger, you had no idea until later on you realized, oh, that's
at the time you just knew you were watching something really, really cool.
And it's like, oh, what was that? Oh, it was about what? It was about robots. Well, where was that from? Oh, it was a Japanese one. And I was a big MonsterVerse one. I mean, I was a Godzilla fan when Godzilla first was in the US. I wanted a Godzilla costume forever. And still today I will eventually get one. And it was the coolest thing ever watching that whole stuff from the Japanese filmmakers and stuff like that. I think a lot of that storytelling, even from then, they got some spirit into some of the other things that we're doing in the anime areas. So I love what they've done with a lot of the new storylines. But again, and I think what Bryan hit earlier was exactly right. It's a character development. I mean, you could watch all episodes of Naruto, but you realize that about a fourth of those or more are character development, and it's flashbacks that you'll watch for a whole arc will be all about Sasuke, right, or something, all in just that.
Yeah.
And you're just like watching it. It's just filler, but you're getting attached to that character, and you want to learn more. You want to learn more and more and more. The whole Toby one was my favorite one, right?
Yeah, that's a great one.
It's a great one, right? So it's funny, you get involved, you want to know more, and as you get more, you become empathetic with the struggles they go through. And that's what they do, is they grab you, they give you a story, they pull you into it, and the empathy comes into play. And then you start getting that where you start relating to them. You start thinking, oh, this is awesome, right? I think that's what we've done. We're doing the same thing in our character development too, is that you want to follow these characters, you want to see where these characters are going. And I think for us, storytelling, and that's one of the biggest thing I think we've seen. But I do agree with Bryan. I think it's like anything else. When something becomes very popular, there are people going to become that are just opportunists. They're going to come in and say, "Oh, just throw this crap out there," and all you're doing is just fulfilling the market with a bunch of junk, right? So you get a great pair of tennis shoes, and all of a sudden you get 10 different copies of those tennis shoes. Well, if everybody buys the copies, they think that everything else is just like that. So it's a bunch of junk. Yeah. So it's going to happen in every industry. The metaverse is going to be the same way. There are going to be a lot of crappy metaverses out there that are just created because they think it's a way to make money, not because of a way to really create something for the fan base. And that's where we always talk about this. And one of the things that we would put a poster, get the tattoo, is like, it's all about the fans. So we're fans. So when we build something, we want to build it in a way that we would enjoy it as a fan. So other fans like us and all the other people who are just getting involved with it will see that passion we have, and they'll want to get involved as well and do things. That's the important thing for us, for sure.
I think that's what I enjoy about the most about you two, or you guys are just fans of the product, and you're fans of it, and creating it yourself, and you want your fans to enjoy as much as you guys do. And I think you guys have said that. And I think that's like what I think will make Anime Village so successful, is because of you two are backing it and have the ideas and everything, and you want it to be great for your fans and everything, and perfect for your fans, and you guys are just fans of anime and mangas and games, and so just being able to create your own, I can only you guys are it's limitless of what Anime Village is going to be and what you guys are going to do and how beautiful it's going to be. So it's so cool to hear your guys' passion and just hear you guys talk about how everything got going. And it's fantastic. And the world, it's going to be awesome. I'm so excited for everything to be dropped and developed. I just and like I said, thank you guys for letting me be a part of this, being able to host this podcast and, help with, other things. So you guys are just absolutely two amazing people who are doing some great things that I think we're going to have some great product out there that the fans and the listeners are going to love.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, there's still a lot of work to be done. We've only just begun, as some would say. But yeah, we're definitely on the right track, and we have a lot to offer people. And once our name gets out there more, we've started generating awareness, and from a year ago to where we are now is light and day. I can only imagine where we're going to be a year from now. Right. It's really going to be something to behold. Yeah, I'm very excited, not only to create the stuff, but to the thing that has me really, really excited is sharing it and putting that smile on other people's faces, because honest to God, it's just so very cool. Yeah.
It's awesome. And this has been a phenomenal episode, and speaking to you both, I can't wait to do more episodes in the future with the both of you and, hear more exciting news and updates about Anime Village. It's going to be great, some great stuff. So I want to thank you both for your time today, and, can't wait to see what more to come.
Well, we appreciate your time, Jeffrey, and we appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. We appreciate what you're doing. And we look forward to absolutely. It's a labor of love, man. That's all I can say.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jeff.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jeff.